2021 is shaping up to be another turbulent year in terms of celebrity deaths. We always hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're deeply saddened to share with you that actor Geoffrey Scott, best known for his roles in Dark Shadows and Dynasty, has died. His wife confirmed the heartbreaking news on Tuesday, March 2nd, although he passed away several days earlier on February 23rd. He was 79 years old. The cause of his death was attributed to Parkinson's disease. He died just minutes after midnight on the day after his birthday in Broomfield, Colorado. In addition to starring in numerous TV shows, he was also an accomplished actor, appearing in over 100 commercials, such as the Walk a Mile for a Camel ad campaign shot at the Taj Mahal. He also appeared in a popular Maxwell House Coffee advertisement alongside actress Margaret Hamilton, whom you might remember as the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz. Geoffrey Scott is also remembered as one of the Old Spice spokesfigures, in addition to being one of the Marlboro men. Who was Geoffrey Scott? Geoffrey was born February 22, 1942, and grew up in the San Fernando Valley region of California. His father, Reed, worked as a manager at Lockheed producing planes, and his mother, Jane, was a homemaker. Scott had some high-profile neighbors back then as well. Reportedly, he lived on the same street as both John Wayne and Clark Gable. Can you imagine how cool their block parties and summer barbecues must have been? Geoffrey spent his early years working with his brother Don, who later became a lawyer at Universal. Scott got his start in the entertainment industry when he was signed by legendary talent agent Dick Clayton, who represented stars like James Dean, Jane Fonda, and Burt Reynolds. With his help, Geoffrey eventually landed himself a contract with Universal. His first major role came in 1970 when he was cast as Sky Rumson in the vampire-themed soap opera Dark Shadows. 2 years later, in 1972, Scott got the chance to play Jeffrey Jordan in Where the Heart Is. In 1974, he appeared in the made-for-TV film Houston, We've Got a Problem, as the character Mel Anderson. The movie was about the Apollo 13 spaceflight and starred Ed Nelson in the role of NASA flight director Gene Kranz. In 1979, he appeared in the NBC series Cliffhangers: The Secret Empire as U.S. Marshal Jim Donner. And then in 1981, he had another small role in the CBS series Concrete Cowboys, which was based on the 1979 TV movie of the same name. The role that Scott's best known for, however, was his recurring role as Mark Jennings in the ABC primetime soap opera Dynasty for the show's third and fourth seasons. Stick around for a full rundown of his character. But first, if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to give it a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Scott's other notable TV roles include playing Bob Dorsey on HBO's First and 10 from 1984 to 85, and David McAllister on General Hospital for a season in 1989. His final role was in 2003's Hulk, where he played the president. Scott retired along with his wife and family in Louisville, Colorado, where he lived out the rest of his days, pursuing his lifelong love affair with skiing. He's survived by his wife, Sherry Catherine Scott, and his two sons, Christopher and Matthew Scott. Scott was married 3 times. Scott's love life was always a subject of media attention. The actor married his first wife, Tanya Thompson, in 1960. She was his high school sweetheart, and they ended up having a daughter together, Shannon. Things didn't work out, and they wound up calling it quits just 2 years after tying the knot in 1962. Scott married his second wife, Carol Engelhart, in 1975. They divorced 13 years later in 85. Not much is known about that particular marriage, but the one thing we do know is they didn't have any children. The same year they split up, Scott crushed his legs in a serious cycling accident. He was almost killed as he was struck by a fast-moving vehicle on the shoulder of the road, but with great perseverance, he was able to stage a full recovery. His third marriage was to Sherry Catherine Scott in 1993. The couple ended up welcoming 2 children into the world, Matthew and Christopher. She's the one Scott ended up settling down with. They lived in the Boulder area for a decade before moving to Louisville to be closer to those powdery slopes. On Dynasty, he played a tennis instructor. For anyone familiar with the sport, tennis players on TV are almost always depicted with a little extra dramatic license. Geoffrey Scott's character on Dynasty, Mark Jennings, was no exception. For one thing, Mark only gave lessons to smoking hot, drop-dead gorgeous women. and these lessons were often interrupted by more ridiculously good-looking women with names like Crystal, Alexis, and Fallon. These lovely ladies would often walk right out onto the court and start discussing topics that would make most people blush even in the safe confines of their own homes. When interrupted by these vixens, Mark would never apologize and inform them he was busy with a client. Rather, he would brush his pupil aside and immediately turn his attention to the fresh face. What's even more ridiculous is that the young lady he totally robbed of a full teaching session never seemed offended. Instead, she'd stroll off the screen looking happy as a clam, presumably because she counted herself lucky enough to receive any of Mark's attention. There was one time he placed pyramids made up of 4 tennis balls each in the far corners of the court's service boxes. And then boom, like a machine gun, he blasted off 4 balls in rapid succession, exploding each little pile. If that's not some kind of flex, we don't know what is. In a different episode, Dynasty further butchers the game to demonstrate Mark's unbelievable mastery. In the scene in question, Mark is confronted by Fallon's justifiably jealous husband, Jeff, who walks right up to Mark in the middle of a lesson and announces he's going to show him up. With that declaration, Jeff serves the ball at a very dumbstruck Mark, who still hasn't moved from his footing at the net. It doesn't matter though, because he effortlessly volleys the serve back, kicking off one of the longest back-and-forth tennis points in history. By the time it's all said and done, Mark has somehow managed to maneuver back to the baseline and all the way up to the net again 3 consecutive times before he unleashes a slamming put-away volley just out of Jeff's reach. And with that fateful blow, Jeff collapses rather dramatically head-first onto the court. Anyone familiar with tennis will tell you Mark gives really poor instructions as well. And couple that with the fact he has numerous affairs with club members and purposely loses to his clients just to con them into taking more lessons, it's a wonder he's not on anyone's hit list. But somehow, on the contrary, he's seemingly adored by everyone in his orbit. As the show progressed, Mark is eventually dropped by his circuit sponsor. This led to his marriage to Crystal falling apart. He ends up divorcing her in Guadalajara. Later on, it's revealed their divorce was never legal in the first place. It was just a piece of paper he purchased in a Mexican bar. In the end, Mark is murdered by Neil McVeigh, who snuck up behind him wearing a wig and dress while he was on the terrace and pushed him to death. Criticisms of Geoffrey's Dynasty character aside, we do send his friends and family our deepest condolences in the wake of his passing. How do you remember Geoffrey Scott? Do you remember him from Dynasty, or do you think of Dark Shadows when you hear his name? Let us know in the comments section. And before you move on, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.